Sean O'Malley is that thing.
If he's not famous, he should sue the UFC.
Just because Aljo was good in this era that I'm speaking about 7 and 8 years ago, what's that got to do with today? Well, he's better. And not only has he gotten better and evolved, he's better than I thought he was, and I thought he was pretty damn good. He became the champion of the world. I recognized him as the champion of the world. It turns out he was even better, right? I understood that he was number one, is what I'm attempting to say. I understood that he was very good. Turns out he was even better than I understood. And I didn't really see that until the night he took on Suga. I thought that there was ways to beat Aljo, right? There seems like anybody that we've seen 5 and 6 and 7 and up to 10 times, and we've got the footage of, as experts in the room, we can find a way to beat him. Now, finding the right athlete to go out there and exploit those things, we're having a totally different conversation. But it seemed as though there was a way to beat Aljo, and it seemed as though some of those opportunities were going to come later in the fight. And that is just not accurate. And that was made clear in the fight with Henry Cejudo, where in rounds 4 and 5, what they call the championship round, Aljo was as strong and coming at him as hard and throwing the same amount of volume as Aljo was doing in rounds 1 and 2. Now we have fighters that are known as late starters. Aljo would be the opposite. He is not a late starter. He's coming at you early. You would have a very hard time finding an Aljo fight anywhere from his history where he lost the first round. Just by example, you'd have a hard time finding where he lost the second round. You'd have a hard time finding a fight where he lost the first or the second round. Right? He's coming at you. And I share that because there's not a whole lot of takeaways. There's not a whole lot of things that you're going to do. You're going to need a really good athlete that can go out there and punch and kick and hold up for the duration, that wants it, is hungry, is gritty. You're going to need to find somebody just like Aljo. And if you're going to get a title change, you're going to have to cross your fingers and hope that they're better at doing Aljo than Aljo is. I mean, it's one of these deals. Like, this isn't really a new theory. There's been guys that you can't deal with. I go back to the Old West and bring up the Billy the Kid days. They couldn't catch him. They couldn't get him, so they went and had to hire his own friend who was equally as witty and just as bad as he was, and then hope he could get the jump on him. There was no other way to do it. There wasn't any other strategy. There was nothing by the book. There was nothing by the rules. Is Sean that guy? He's certainly the right guy. When you go through Peter Yan in that division, you are now the number one contender. And if you hear from Sean 5 months ago, he doesn't have anything nice to say about Aljo. Solidified and built this fight. I remember when Dana White went to the press conference and said they're going to do the fight and they're going to bring it to Boston. I remember thinking, well, he misspoke. There's so many cards, there's one every week, and Dana misspoke. Because to go to Boston, which was already on the calendar, was only 3 months later. There was no champion that was getting turned around in 3 months. And it was one of these things where you find out that he is. I mean, Islam, not for nothing, had already sat for 3 months. Islam already sat for 3 or 4 months at the night that Aljo fought, and Aljo gets rebooked for 3 months later. Aljo will have fought twice.
Fight fans, welcome back to Luxury Tainment. In this video, we will dive into the captivating realm of bantamweight supremacy and the impending clash between two remarkable contenders. Settle in, for we embark on a journey of analysis and anticipation inside the cage that spans the gripping storylines of Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley as they prepare to face off in what promises to be a monumental clash at UFC 292. As the dust settles on the ever-evolving landscape of MMA, one name has emerged with a claim to being the best bantamweight in the history of the sport. Aljamain Sterling's ascent to glory, though contentious in its origin, is undeniably impressive. He weathered the storm of controversy stemming from a disqualification victory and has since etched his name into MMA history with 3 consecutive title defenses.
That front kick to the body is money. And he goes high. The beginning of the end. He's hurt. Yeah, he's hurt bad.
Funkmaster accurately encapsulates Sterling's skills. He has showcased an extraordinary set of skills that has led to his triumph over formidable opponents. Peter Yan, TJ Dillashaw, and Henry Cejudo have all encountered the resilient force that is Aljamain Sterling. With past triumphs over Corey Sandhagen, Pedro Monjos, and Renan Barão, Sterling's resume stands as a testament to his mettle. A complete fighter with seemingly no chinks in his armor, Sterling's attributes read like a laundry list of excellence. His cardio is nothing short of phenomenal, propelling him through grueling battles. His wrestling acumen is breathtaking, a dual threat of control and submission that leaves adversaries grappling for arm. His striking, while not overwhelmingly concussive, exudes explosive precision that cannot be overlooked. Yes, for all his undeniable talents, Sterling's journey hasn't been devoid of perplexing gaps in recognition. A riddle in its own right, the question of why Sterling hasn't earned the respect he deserves remains shrouded in mystery. But there exists an adversary poised to test Sterling's dominance. Sean O'Malley, a fighter who has yet to taste defeat within the octagon, presents a formidable challenge. While he may have a grappling skill set that is passable, O'Malley's heart beats for his striking game. A striker of undeniable flair, O'Malley wields knockout power and an instinct for destruction. His mastery of range and distance is nothing short of remarkable, further intensified by his towering stature for a 135-pound division. O'Malley's path, though, has been paved with a perceived lack of top-tier competition. Despite thrilling wins and a narrow victory over Yan, O'Malley's journey has been sheltered by the UFC, avoiding battles with higher-ranked contenders. A question mark hangs over his readiness to face the elites of the division. As we venture into the realm of predictions, the potential outcomes of this monumental clash come into focus. O'Malley's avenue to triumph seems to reside in thwarting Sterling's takedowns and launching calculated strikes from a distance, hunting for the decisive knockout blow. However, as the saying goes, easier said than done. Sterling's deceptive speed in closing the gap and executing takedowns makes this endeavour formidable. Not only does he boast proficient wrestling skills, but he also is no slouch in the striking realm. With an unyielding chin, Sterling has only been knocked out twice, both instances mired in unique circumstances. The ground is where the mismatch becomes apparent. Sterling's mastery of grappling, particularly when he seizes an opponent's back, often spells the end of the contest. While O'Malley is no novice, he does not scale the heights of Cejudo, Barrero or Mendes, all vanquished by Sterling's grappling supremacy. With the stage set for UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling, the reigning bantamweight champion, enters this encounter with a conviction that his opponent, Sean O'Malley, is fortunate to face him. Sterling's sentiments resounds with a personal note as he reflects upon O'Malley's record. There remains only one man that O'Malley has defeated by a split decision, Peter Yan, who still stands within the UFC ranks. As Sterling dissects the resume, he notes that the opponents he's conquered remain within the UFC fold, highlighting his journey through the echelons of the sport. The bantamweight kingpin's history of triumphs over quality opposition has culminated in his present standing, a battle-hardened fighter. Amidst the intensity of the pre-fight build-up, Sterling acknowledges the significance of the match for O'Malley, who seeks validation in the bantamweight division. A hint of underlying animosity simmers as Sterling acknowledges the respect that usually follows after the fight, contrasting it with the intense rivalry that kicks off in the beginning. O'Malley, on his part, holds steadfast in his belief that his striking power will be the key to victory. His track record in landing powerful shots in his UFC journey is a testament to his confidence. The prospect of moving up to featherweight looms on the horizon for O'Malley, adding intrigue to an already stacked division. As Sterling's career trajectory takes center stage, he contemplates the possibility that this could be his last outing at 135 pounds. The allure of challenging featherweight champion Alex Volkanovski beckons, and Sterling envisions a path to becoming a double champion before possibly hanging up his gloves. The aspirations to enter the boxing realm in his post-MMA journey sparks a glint of humor, showcasing Sterling's multifaceted ambitions. As the countdown to the main event intensifies, we dissect their skill sets and potential strategies. Sterling, a grappling specialist, stands poised to defend his title against a formidable striker in O'Malley. Their contrasting styles, coupled with their propensity for finishing fights, leave us with a myriad of possibilities. While Sterling has shown a significant improvement in striking, his rawness in that aspect could be exploited by the precision of O'Malley's striking arsenal. The potential for an emotional Sterling, driven by O'Malley's verbal sparring, presents a risk of lapses in strategy. O'Malley's rise to the occasion mentality adds another layer of intrigue. His victory over Yan underlines his ability to shine on the grandest stages, despite the odds. Yet grappling skills remains a concern for O'Malley, and Sterling's relentless takedown attempts could prove pivotal. As we near the culmination of this analysis, a clear pattern emerges. While O'Malley possesses a striking advantage, Sterling's wrestling and submission game provides a potent counter. The key for O'Malley lies in avoiding the grappling exchanges and landing his trademark powerful strikes. Sterling's mastery of grappling, backed by his submission proficiency, presents a formidable obstacle for O'Malley. tapestry of MMA, these two fighters will engage in a battle that could resonate for years to come. Will Sterling's experience and multifaceted skill set triumph over O'Malley's striking brilliance? Or will O'Malley rise to the occasion once more and showcase his flair on the grandest stage? The stage is set, the fighters primed, and the anticipation electrifying. As UFC 292 approaches, we eagerly await the unraveling of this compelling narrative where two of the sport's most skilled fighters collide. History awaits in the octagon as Sterling and O'Malley lock horns in a battle that promises excitement, suspense, and a definitive step towards the pinnacle of bantamweight supremacy. O'Malley is often compared to former two-division champion Conor McGregor. It is hard to say whether those comparisons are justified, but one thing they do have in common is an ability to rise to the occasion. Like McGregor, O'Malley seems to perform better when the lights are brightest, the crowd is loudest, and the pressure is the most suffocating. His recent win over Yan was a perfect example of that. That bout was a massive step up in competition, and Yan was the highest profile opponent O'Malley had fought to date. Yet the American striker stepped up and won a razor-close firefight. He needs to rise to the occasion again at Sterling, who may already consider a nightmare matchup for him. It's hard to say whether Sterling is a nightmare matchup for O'Malley or O'Malley is a nightmare matchup for Sterling. Both guys seem to have the skill set to handle the other, which is what makes their matchup so cool. It's easy to imagine Sterling doing to O'Malley what he did to Sandhagen, a similar fight in 2020. But as long as O'Malley takes down defense is on point, we've got to back him in this one. He might spend a round or two fighting to survive on the mat, but he will have five-minute rounds to work with. That is plenty of time for him to find his opening. Maybe it will be a knee or an uppercut in response to a Sterling takedown attempt. Or maybe it will be a cracking combo from a range or an elbow against the cage. The path to victory for O'Malley lies in catching Sterling off guard with his striking skills. One of the things that makes Sterling such an effective fighter is that he bolsters his wrestling skills with an awesome submission game. If he can get his opponents to the mat, and he usually can, he is able to not only control them, but threaten with a variety of chokes. The best example of this occurred in 2020 when he dragged dangerous contender Corey Sandhagen to the mat and slept him with a rare naked choke inside a round. That was the 8th submission win on the BJJ black belt's record, while O'Malley has only won 2 fights by submission, strangely, his first and third fights. The stats reflect the difference in their skill levels and their approach to grappling. Sterling attempts 0.8 submissions per 15 minutes in the octagon. O'Malley only attempts 0.5. This is not to suggest O'Malley can't submit Sterling or that the striker will be easy to choke out or lock up in an armbar or something, but the champ is clearly a few steps ahead in this department. Just as O'Malley has a clear advantage in the striking department, Sterling is clearly the far better wrestler. The champion has been wrestling since 2004, when he was in high school. His wrestling background has served him well in the octagon, while he struggled to take Cejudo down at UFC 288 and struggled to keep him, the former Olympic gold medalist, on the mats when he got him there. He does not usually have much difficulty grounding his foes. His takedown accuracy rate is quite poor at 24%. That's worse than O'Malley's, but he is persistent enough that it often doesn't matter. In his win over Cejudo, for example, he attempted 15 takedowns to land the 4 that helped convince the judges he deserved the victory. It's not just that Sterling is a good wrestler either. Takedowns have always been a vulnerability for O'Malley. For all his skill on the feet, he typically offers little resistance when his opponents are able to get to his hips. Peter Yan, for example, took O'Malley down 6 times in the 3-round scrap last year, and the Russian is not even a wrestler by trade. O'Malley's takedown defense is not terrible, but it's not great either. And against a fighter who's as technical, strong, and determined as Sterling, that is a cause for concern. Aljamain Sterling is still the bantamweight champion after UFC 288. Sterling was back in action in the main event of the Saturday night card in Newark, New Jersey, defending his title against former two-division champion Henry Cejudo. It was a razor-close fight. Some fans on social media seemed to score it for the returning former champion, but in the end, it went Sterling's way via split decision. With his victory over Cejudo, Sterling has now defended the UFC Bantam belt 3 times, more than any other fighter in the promotion's history. He will be rewarded for that historic feat with a big fight. After the UFC 288's main event concluded, the champion was joined in the octagon by knockout artist Sean O'Malley, the division's number 2 ranked contender and perhaps more importantly, its most popular fighter. It will be a highlight fight of Sterling's career and the first title opportunity of O'Malley's, which has felt inevitable since he burst into the scene with a flashy knockout win on Dana White's Contender Series in 2017. The path to victory for O'Malley lies in catching Sterling off guard with his striking skills.
Wrong. Bringing him out. And Suga Sean, the way he's picked the fight as opposed to the way that he's promoted are very different. And I think they're both very sincere. By the way, I don't think Suga Sean performs for you guys. I think he's an entertainer. I think he is a performer. I think he has all of those qualities. But I don't think that he is performing. I think Suga Sean is showing you who he is, how he feels. Like anybody, his mood can change. Like anybody, the frame of mind he's trying to get in to go into something as personal as combat has the right to change. But it is distinctly different, and he's being very positive towards Aljo. And I think that Suga Sean is really somebody to look to. I feel as though he does everything right. And he works very hard those 3 times a year that he's competing, but he works very hard the other 362 days a year as well. I like the way that he's promoted, and I don't think that he needs to say anything bad about Aljo. And not to mention, you start saying bad things about Aljo, you're not telling the truth. You don't mean it. You're not going to attack his character, and you're not going to say that he's a mean guy, and you're not going to say that he's bad at fighting. You're not going to say that he has weaknesses somewhere. That would be dishonest, because Aljo is none of those things. He is wonderful. And he's a wonderful fighter. And the only way you're going to beat Aljo is to bring in somebody that can out-Aljo him, that can out-punch him. Maybe they can get to the target a little bit quicker and a little bit more times. And the same thing would go with the kicks, and the same thing will go with the wrestling. And is Sean O'Malley that guy? That's between them. But I can tell you Sean O'Malley's the right guy.
Our crystal ball shows Sterling on the canvas and O'Malley parading around the cage with his hands in the air. O'Malley by knockout, round 3. So guys, who do you have winning between Aljamain Sterling versus Sean Sugar O'Malley as they prepare to face off in what promises to be a monumental clash at UFC 292? Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and share, and have a great day.